recently found myself using what might be the world's largest keyboard, but is almost certainly the worst. 1,000 keys, one for each of the 1,000 most common English words. So I'm a technical artist, for lack of a better description, and I really like to explore technical interfaces, sort of as a way to try and see my own context from the outside. What about our world is actually necessary, and what is just historical happenstance? Take programming languages. What if we'd continued to use the really distinctive flowchart notation from Gottlob Frege's Begriffsschrift? It turns out it works fine as a language, though you do have to get used to using the implications operator. But one thing I keep coming back to are keyboards, because they're really kind of weird if you think about them too much. Imagine proposing a new tech gadget with 104 buttons, and you just had to memorize where they were to use it effectively. What else could these have looked like? I made this one based on a storage tray for pieces of physical type from a printing press. Notice the separate uppercase and lowercase. And the E key is so big because if you're typesetting an entire page, you're going to need more pieces of E than Q. And using it wasn't bad. You can almost touch type with it. And it makes you think about how text is really a series of glyphs. And some of our letters are actually multiple glyphs. And some of our glyphs are multiple letters. So what about typing with entire words instead of letters? At first glance, if you squint, this might sound like an optimization, moving up a layer of abstraction. Might. But what set of words to use? And this is really important because it has to maintain that magic of natural language, the ability to describe anything and everything. Well, luckily I already knew of a smallish set of words that could do this. In Randall Munroe's comic Upgoer 5, he describes the workings of a Saturn V rocket using only the 1,000 most common English words. Or the 1,000, because the word 1,000 isn't actually in the list. And this is actually a really interesting challenge, limiting yourself to a small vocabulary like that. It makes you confront the complexity without hiding behind jargon. If you can't describe something in simple terms, how well do you actually understand it? As Randall said, this end must be pointing towards the ground if you want to go to space. If it starts pointing towards space, you are having a bad problem and you will not go to space today. So, with that set of words chosen, I had to start making the keyboard. And the problem with the keyboard with 1,000 keys is that every step is multiplied by 1,000. Even just soldering the switches on took upwards of a week, but that was just a matter of patience. The keycaps all had to be custom printed, and that required new processes. I was using dye-sub printing, where heat and pressure transfer a printed design, and I got it working okay eventually in one-offs, but that needed to be scaled up for mass production or it would never get done. So with a 3D printed jig, I could do 16 at a time. And then with another jig, I could be loading one while the other was baking in the heat press, and that really sped things up. And it was about this time, as the keycaps were getting finished and the soldering was done, I started to think seriously about the practical realities of a keyboard the size of a small surfboard. It needed a protective case, or the first time I tried to take it anywhere, it would fall over in the back of the car and destroy itself. Unfortunately, carrying cases don't come much wider than 59 inches because shipping costs get really nonlinear at that point. But classic road cases, those are mostly custom made and you can just buy the parts and make whatever you want. And it's pretty fun, kind of like Lego, but with rivets. And there it was, I had my 1,000 keyboard. So what's it like to use? It's overwhelming. Even just moving back and forth to find your keys is a full body workout. It is kind of a fun feeling, like using a really early computer or something, but mostly it's just mentally exhausting and very slow. I could only use it for an hour or two at a time, tops. And one of the big problems is that there are no proper nouns on it. You can't name things. So the 1,000 is perfectly fine for describing really detailed technical concepts. But when it comes to human communication, it just fails immediately. We like to name things. So I do not recommend using a 5-foot wide keyboard. 104 button peripherals remain weird, but entering text character by character makes a lot of sense. Qwerty may be historical happenstance, and it's definitely suboptimal. but compared to some of the alternatives, it's a solid B+. Thank you.